What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a deck profile of the Dromai list that I was playing for U.S. Nationals. I ended up going 10th in the calling and did poorly at Nationals, mostly due to draft. If you guys would like to hear more about how I did a tournament report, so go check out that video. I'll maybe throw a link somewhere here. I don't know. See if I can figure out how to do that. If you're watching this now, though, I am live right now on YouTube. I'm either going to be playing on Talishar or trying to stream coverage of Nationals, so please go check that out. That being said, let's just jump right into the deck. So, first of all, we got Dromai and our weapon. Not much to be said there. And then for my equipment suite, I wouldn't really lean on my equipment. I'm not a fan of having fat equipment packages in my decks. I like having access to more sideboard slots. In hindsight, I think I would have preferred to have had a little bit more AB in my sideboard, just due to the physical Icelander list that was running around. Just having a bit more AB would have been nice there. As I said in my tournament report, I was really relying on Ashwings in that matchup for AB, and in my game, I lost to Icelander. I couldn't really find any AB for the first half of my deck, so maybe I should have had more. That was greedy. I wanted to basically be like, prove to me that I get punished by this. Crown, pretty self-explanatory. There's not really many other options there. It's like that or Skullcap. And I was, with this list, mostly targeting... The meta that I projected seeing was going to be Oldhim, Icelander, Dromai Mirrors, and maybe a few aggro decks. I was not expecting the aggro turnout that we actually saw, so in hindsight, I would have changed the list drastically, or not even played this had I known our meta was just going to be so Unga Bunga. Should have expected NA to be Unga Bunga. That's on me. But yeah, pretty much just like this. Crown of Reflections or Skullcap. I was not targeting Phi, so I was not going to go with Skullcap. Maybe I would go with Skullcap in the future. I don't know. I got to think on that. And if I wanted more AB, maybe Crown of Reflections. Though, against the physical list, this is nice to have. Silken Form, self-explanatory, is one of the only gloves that we can really run in the deck list. Again, hindsight, might have added Null Rune gloves. It is nice, though, against the Arcane Barrier Arcane Damage decks. You can just be like, okay, I'm going to quell some damage in the first round of the game, and then transform this into an Ashwing, so I have a threat and AB. It was like, okay, this is technically worse than playing Null Rune, but it frees up a sideboard slot, and the way I had the deck configured, I did want the extra slot. I was kind of struggling to find one. Furnace, it's like this or Tunic, and the way that we're playing the deck, especially into Guardian, we really need the Furnace to be able to play around, expose the elements, and just make extra Ash over the course of the game. I don't really value the Tunic resources highly the way this deck plays, though it is very good. In a different list, I would definitely want it like we were more aggro trying to punch our opponent out, but basically, like, the less I focus on dragons, the more I focus on attack action cards. I probably like the the Tunic more. Big brain, don't have to remember your Tunic counters if you're playing Furnace. Ghostly Touch, again, I feel like that's self-explanatory. It's for the Oldhim matchup, or I guess Brute, though I did not see any Brutes. It's one of our win cons in the matchup. We get to the end of the game, and then we use our Mage Master boots to flash in a Passing Mirage, or not flash in, I guess, with Go again. Play Passing Mirage. Now our Ghostly Touch doesn't have Phantasm, and we can swing with it this round. We try to strip our opponent's whole hand with the Ghostly Touch because it's coming in for lethal through blocks, and then we just cycle their hand for the rest of the game. That can be difficult to do sometimes, and in some games it doesn't even get to that point, but in that matchup you kind of need a lot of different win cons because the Guardian can play the matchup differently, so you need to be like, okay, where do I need to kind of pressure you? Am I going to try to pressure you through the Ghostly Touch, or am I going to try to pressure you through one of my other win cons that we'll touch on soon? But that's it for the equipment. Again, I would probably add in AB had I known what the meta was going to be. Next, I'm going to talk about our attack actions. So, we have Spears, red on all of these here, and then I'll cover blues in a minute. We do not play very many yellows in the list. It's like one yellow in the whole deck. Dunebreaker, Dust Up, Sweeping Blow, And Billowing Mirage. Let's move this over here out of the glare. Sorry about that. There we go. And then for our blues, we have Sweeping, Billowing, Dust Up. Sweeping, Billowing, those are pretty common in all the lists. They're good. You need Ash generation. And the... honestly, having more ways to pitch to an attack action to create an Ash is very useful in the list a lot of the time, just so you can kind of get going on those early turns, because I found a lot of the times the games that I am struggling in or losing, it's because I could not find a way to generate Ash in the early rounds due to just like not drawing a way to pitch. Because if you just draw all dragons, what are you going to do? And that's one of the other uses of the Mage Master boots. It's a turn 0, I can at least still play the game and make an Ash, because if you draw the opening hand of 4 dragons, Arsenal pass, draw another dragon, guess I'll die. And that did happen to me in one of my games. And I did not crack the Mage Masters because I felt like I needed them for the matchup, and I think I was supposed to use them there. But yeah, you need ways to pitch to make Ash sometimes just to play the game, and then once you no longer need that, they still block for 3, and you're looking to block a lot in this deck. I was not very high on the 1-for-5s originally, the 1-for-5s and the 2-for-8s. I think they're very good in a different build, but with me, I'm focusing more on dragons in this list, and these don't actually advance my game plan of dragons. But I found that I needed a few more ways, again, to pitch to make some Ash, and I actually liked them in the Guardian matchup. It was a way for me to say, give me a card, without actually playing a dragon and consuming an Ash, because a lot of the times these had the same text in that matchup. If I play a dragon and swing with a dragon, and my opponent pops it, well, it's about the same as if I played an attack action, swung with the attack action, and they pop it. They both gave me a counter on my Ghostly Touch, got a card out of their hand. The difference being, this didn't use an Ash, and in the case of this, it actually generates an Ash when they pop it. So I did like that, and if they don't pop it, I get chip damage. Sorry about the zoom. I gotta figure out how to change that. I tried changing it the other day, and I guess I can't change it on Mac, so I gotta steal a computer and figure out how to do that. But yeah, actually good in the Guardian matchup, I found. It was kind of weird. I was not expecting that. And then, worst case, I get chip damage because I don't want to pop it. All I wanted is chip damage anyways. And then Dust Up. Forgot to mention that. Dust Up. Again, the meta I was projecting, Control decks and a smattering of Runeblade. Dust Up's very good versus the aggro decks, specifically Runeblade and, Dory and stuff like that. They see this card and they're just like, oh my god! 4 and an Ashwing! I can't beat that! Oh! They just take so much psychic damage, and then either they block it and you're happy, or you got an Ashwing and you're happy. It almost functions like a snatch. And the big thing is that it lets me block a lot on my turn and still have a round. Because if I end up having to block with 2 to 3 cards, a lot of the times you can't do anything because these cards cost resources. Or my dragons cost resources. And when they don't, they're using one of my only Ashes in the matchup because you're generally very light on Ash in the matchup. So be able to block with 2 to 3 cards, throw a Dust Up, get an Arsenal, and just pass. You put some pressure on them. You still had a round. It's very, very useful. And then against Runeblade, you actually care about the Ashwing because the Arcane Barrier. And in those matchups, they can just be a win con, just 1-1-1-1-1. If they deal with them, cool, they soak to damage. If they don't deal with them, they win the game by themselves. Again, versus Phi, the Ashwing's not as important, but still, it is nice to have a round with one card. And then we have some more blues in the side for other matchups, but generally we're running in a lot of the matchups 9 blues, sometimes a few more. And then we got our dragons. So we are playing every dragon but Vincerikai, and I'll talk about that in a second. But these are the ones that are pretty much in the deck most of the time. Down a bit. Sorry about that. So we got all the zeros. We got all the ones. Necria, and then the 3 legendaries. And then I have, in the sideboard, Uvia and 2 Thamai. I might bump it up to 3 Thamai after this past weekend, but we'll have to see. all the dragons are good. We're focused on dragons. This is how we're trying to win the game. There's not a whole lot to talk about on most of these. I'd say the only ones worth mentioning is Necria, Vincerakai, and like the sideboard ones. All the rest are they're just good. You just play them if you're trying to do dragon things. I guess legendaries sometimes aren't relevant, but like, and again, it's like the control matchups, you do end up pitch stacking them and it comes up. Necria is a little expensive, but in a lot of the matchups that we're bringing in more blues, it's very relevant. If they didn't make us use our blue, we get to cast this. Against the aggro decks, it's a big butt for them to kill, and it ends up letting us build up Ash. And we're usually struggling to make Ash in that matchup, so it lets us kind of, okay, now I don't have to worry about Ash anymore because you spent your turn killing this. Vincerakai was in the list up until very recently. I ended up cutting it for the 1-for-5s. It's very good. It's very good against the aggro decks, especially because it's a lot of times 9 damage and it gets a card out of them or like a swing with their weapon or something. So it ends up being very positive damage-wise. But I needed the extra card for the aggro matchup because I felt like Vincerakai wasn't great versus Guardian and such because it costs a blue to play. Therefore, I'm down on Ash making it, and I want to make sure that I'm not having struggles with Ash in the early rounds. And it just got popped. And there's things you can do with it, like doing it with a Miragi. Like, it's not terrible. It's just, I felt like I wanted the attack action more just to build up my Ash, get my counters and such, because I was focusing more on Uvia in that matchup. Uvia was an all-star for me. A lot of people aren't high on Uvia, it seems like, but I liked it when they were trying to fatigue me, and if they weren't trying to fatigue me, then I just blocked with it. It was fine. Yeah, I might consider putting Vincerakai back in for, like, if the meta shifts more towards aggro like it seems to be, but I'm not sure. It's kind of rough because, like, Ninja can just poke it and kill it. I feel like it really shines versus Rune Blades, where they're like, oh, it's got a whole card out of me, or my Rosetta, or something. And if they can't swing with the Rosetta, it has to be a card into it, and that usually means they didn't have the go again. And if they block, like, if I attack with that, and they block, then a lot of times their round is just kill it, pass, meaning I got tempo, which is huge in that matchup. I kind of flipped the turn order with one card. So it's very good there. But if I'm not, like, targeting Runeblade, I'm not sure if I want that in the deck. It's still very good, though. Thamai, All-Star versus Wizard, obviously. I also liked it quite a bit versus Oldhim. It shuts off a lot of their your-turn stuff, like the defense reactions, the hero ability, expose, all sorts of things. Very, very, very good card. I was not a believer of it in the matchup until I tried it, and then I was like, oh, all right, this is pretty good. And then, as I said, Uvia, one of the ways we beat fatigue, we just out-Ashwing them, and then they can't, they run out of poppers. And then, for the rest of the deck, we have basically our sideboard. It's not, this isn't just sideboard, like there's some cards over here that are sideboard too, but this is just like, oh, these are for other game plans and such. Burn them all. It's a block 3, so the floor is very nice on it. And it's one of our win cons versus the Guardians and such. And sometimes it just comes up of like, all right, I'm just going to play this, and I'm just going to clock you with it. You can't deal with the one around because you didn't bring in AB versus me. Why would you? Because this game isn't going to go long enough for that to come up. Like, say, a Runeblade or something. So it does come up sometimes. Can be hard to get the full value out of it, because really you want this to stick around for like 3 to 4 rounds. So if you're not doing that, it's not getting value. But sometimes the value in it isn't just the math of the card, because if it's lethal, it doesn't matter. And just the one card push my board is quite good. Break the Embers, very good against the aggro decks, very good against the Guardians, very good against the arcane damage decks. It's one of the best cards in the deck. I've considered even playing the yellows in the deck because it's so good. It just comes up in so many matchups. And this is our Guardian package over here. Anti-Phantasm stuff, E-Pot to deal with Expose, so we don't have to play around that anymore. Also, just more blues if we feel like we need them for arcane damage. And then Tome of Fiendel. This is the other reason that we're playing the boots. Again, the aggro matchups, it's what helps catch us up, because usually we're like a little behind in the aggro matchups, just the nature of the matchup, especially if they play poppers. And then we have a round where we play this. It really puts us back at parity or ahead, and then usually makes them deal with our board on the next round. And then I didn't have to block, so I get to have another round into them where I say deal with my board again. And then if we get to play a second one with a Dromai, now we snowball the game. Very, very good, but you do need to see it early enough for it to matter, which is why I'm playing 3. Realistically, I don't want to play 3, but it's so important that I just need to see it early enough for it to be relevant. Because if I see it and I'm in, like, the teens or something, I can't say no blocks a lot of the time. So, it's good when it's good. That's basically it. Can be a detriment too, but... And then we have our defensive cards. Sandcover, Sigil, Sink, Fate, pretty self-explanatory. We're looking to take the game long and block a lot, so we want these cards. I ended up not playing Oasis. I didn't really like that card in the deck. I felt like it was really just there to generate Ash in the early rounds, and I'd rather just not do that. And like the matchup that I feel like I really wanted it for was to deal with Rosetta Thorn, but a lot of the times the Rosetta Thorn is going into an Ashwing or something, so I'm not even getting to Oasis that unless I just want to prevent 2, in which case I could just pitch a blue to deal with that. So I just didn't care for it. I might change my mind and put it back in if I feel like I need it. It might be better in a different build if I'm on a different game plan in that matchup, but the way that I was playing it, I'm focusing on Ashwings, so I'm not going to get value off of that. So it's like, what else is this for? Maybe Guardian? I don't know. I didn't really care for it there. It is nice that it can still, like, push your board or turn on your Furnace so you can generate an Ash. And then, because you can go, like, pitch a red, Oasis, Furnace, pitch a red, float 2, use that for AB or something. But, I don't know. That's a lot of hoop jumping. I don't know if that's something that I'm looking to actually do. So... other than that, any other thoughts that I had about the deck? No, that's pretty much it. The only other changes that I would really think about making, had I known what the format was going to look like, would have probably just been add some more AB and maybe change my plans a little bit to deal with Phi, like maybe add some more cards in for that because there was so much Phi running around. Thankfully, I only ended up facing 1 in the calling, so... And it's like, the matchup is so cursed that I don't know if it's really worth warping the deck to add that in. So, I don't know. But if you guys have any questions about the deck, please leave them below, and I will try my best to answer them. And again, please check out my live stream if it is still going on right now. I would appreciate you guys coming and hanging out. And if there's anything that you guys would like to see video-wise, please let me know. Thanks for watching.